Good afternoon from Clare, South Australia. My name is Carlin Sheriff and I work for Rural Directions Proprietary Limited. This afternoon I will be providing you with a short update on the oyster benchmarking project and the latest results from New South Wales, South Australia and Tasmania. All of the information that I'll present today can be found in the benchmarking report, which is available on the Oysters Australia website. This session will cover an introduction to the oyster benchmarking program, production benchmarks, profit per state, oyster income per hectare and labour unit, and then 2 brief case studies. The focus of this session is to look at a state-by-state comparison. We have data on a per species and grower type basis, but this is not covered today. If you're after this data, please visit the Oysters Australia blog site. If you've got any questions after today, my contact details are in the bottom right hand corner of this presentation. Feel free to give me a call or send me an email. This project was funded by Oysters Australia and Seafood CRC, as well as participating business contributions. It aims to review individual business performance as well as compare and identify opportunities for improvement across states, species and grower types. In the last 12 months, we have collected data from 2 financial years. Unfortunately, the data set for this round dropped to 24 businesses due to factors outside of our control, including POMs, bushfires, and individuals leaving the industry. Those involved in the program provided data via the Snapshot Now tool. This tool focuses on a whole of business performance, and each business scores themselves against industry best practice in the areas of infrastructure, business management, production, risk management, self-management, environment, and human resources. The businesses also collect financial data via the Snapshot Premium tool. This focuses on assets, liabilities, purchases and sales, as well as expenses, and hopefully profit. Each business received an individual report for their business, and with their agreement, the collected data is then combined confidentially into a comparison report across the 3 states. The results I am presenting today are from the industry comparison report. The first graph I have here shows the results for the production and management section of the whole business review process. The aim here is to get as close as possible to 5. 5 is industry best practice. Each question we have here was developed with input from Oysters Australia. The questions in this section relate to throughput speed of batches, amount of time stock is handled and how often, grading methods, as well as quality standards. The graph shows the average results per state. Tasmania is in the maroon colour, New South Wales in the green and South Australia in the purple. As you can see, that Tasmania leads the way for time to first sale from batch and time to main sales from batch, as well as grading methods. All growers scored lower for stock pickup methods and stock transport methods. The overall results demonstrate that Tasmania is leading the group with their scores for best practices in the area of production and management. South Australia is second and New South Wales is last. Of interest, Tasmania also scored the lowest average mortality percentage. New South Wales was 20% and South Australia was 35%. The data here is also supported by the financial results that I'm about to share with you that shows Tasmania and South Australia are leading the way here as well. This graph shows all participating businesses and the average gross income they generated on a full-time equivalent basis, as well as developed hectare. The graph is sorted by total dozens sold and only considers income from oyster sales and not other business income sources. The average income per full-time equivalent was $138,848, and the average income per developed hectare was $60,113. Do you know how your business compares to these figures? For each of the following results, do you know where your business sits? The green line shows the total oyster sales, and this is linked to the right-hand axis. You can see here that the businesses selling the most oysters were not necessarily making the most income from them. This would be different for many reasons, including grower type, labour structure, and size of stock at sale. Of course, income is only the first part of the story. We will now look at costs and then profit. The businesses towards the right-hand side of this graph are on growers. Just for your information. This graph shows the main costs, or the biggest costs that an oyster business tackles as a percentage of income. They include employment costs or wages, owners' wages, spat purchase costs, fuel, repairs and maintenance, licenses and lease fees, as well as freight. This graph shows Pacific oyster growers in blue and Sydney Rock oyster growers in maroon or red. What you can see here is that employment costs were similar. Owners' imputed wages were higher in Sydney Rock Oysters, highlighting that many Sydney Rock Oyster businesses remunerate their owners by drawings, and after our system allocates an imputed wage to these individuals, it is equivalent to a large percentage of the business income. To me, this flags a bit of a query about the business model of these businesses. Spat and on-grower purchase costs were also higher as a percentage of income for Sydney Rock growers. Many of you have probably focused on this figure and are wondering why you are seeing Sydney Rock oysters with high figures here, because typically Sydney Rock oyster growers catch their own spat. There are a number of reasons for this, and some of our Sydney Rock oyster growers within this data set do use nursery stock, but we also need to remember that this is an income related indicator, and the result can be partially explained because Sydney Rock oyster growers did not have a profitable year this year, therefore the percentage of income will be skewed higher. The other costs were relatively the same for each species. The combined report on the Oyster Australia blog page has these figures on a per dozen sold basis if you'd like to investigate them further. Average profit in 11/12 was $76,643. This was slightly less in dollar terms, but as a percentage of income, it was a better result. Pacific oysters were the most profitable species grown. When we looked at the profit of the overall 24 businesses, we found that 1/3 made a loss, 1/3 made a profit of less than $100,000, and 1/3 made a profit of greater than $100,000. All of these figures are after we have allowed for an owner's reward, but are before tax. The focus here is on management performance rather than tax performance, so our figures can be slightly different to what the tax figures result are. We'll now look at profit per state. South Australia achieved a higher profit in 11/12, nearly double that of the 10/11 result. South Australia also achieved the highest result for profit as a percentage of income. This tells us that of the income earned, the South Australian growers kept the largest percentage. Tasmania is next, and they also have had a very good result in 11/12 compared to 10/11. Tasmania was also home to the 3 most profitable businesses within the data set. Of interest, the most profitable businesses were also a combination of grower types, including on-grower and finished. New South Wales' average profit was the lowest of all states, but was also better than what was achieved in 10/11. Overall, the average profit on a state-by-state basis was higher than in 10/11. As discussed earlier, Tasmania and South Australia scored strongly in most of the production-related indicators and also in most of the financial indicators. One area that these growers did not come out on top was debt. On average, New South Wales had the lowest debt, highest equity results of all states. The question we need to look at is, have these businesses missed opportunities or productivity gains by not investing in their business? Obviously, I'm not saying that you all need to go out and increase your debt, but I am challenging you to review your business performance and returns and look for areas of improvement. Having low debt is not a bad thing, but this equity could be leveraged into your business to make improvements. We can see in the table at the bottom of the slide that the profit per developed hectare between the three states tells a clear picture, and the states with the highest profit also have the lowest equity. Does this tell us that New South Wales is an under-leveraged industry? Something for discussion with your peers during this conference. The production results from the earlier graph were also repeated on the last line to show one potential area for improvement. To wrap up this presentation, I will now briefly focus on two case studies. These have been created by comparing some of the whole of business results with some of the key financial results. The first one is focusing on throughput speed. This considers the time taken to grow a batch of oysters for sale and the amount of handling required. The best practice questions scored highly for businesses which had stock ready for sale within 14 months and those who handled stock less than 6 times per batch. The benefits of a high throughput speed is that a large number of stock can be prepared for sale faster, therefore increasing cash flow. This strategy needs to consider the investment required in machinery to achieve this result. A benchmarking review can be used here to review if this investment is right for your business. The business which achieved 100% for the throughput speed category was a finished oyster producing business. They operated with 1 labour unit per developed hectare, which was higher than the group average. They achieved a very high amount of oysters sold per developed hectare, well above the group average of 13,000. The focus on throughput speed can be seen clearly linked to the production results in this slide. The benchmarks told us the operating costs of this business were slightly higher than the group average, but finance costs were lower than the benchmark target of 15%. This business paid less for repairs and maintenance as a percentage of income than the group, and they also scored well for mechanisation questions I'm about to discuss on the next slide. To keep this in perspective, this business did score below the group average on profitability, and they did so within the planned Oysters Australia grower groups that I'm sure will be spoken at the conference today, there will be a potential to discuss these results further and learn more about this business. The second case study focuses on mechanisation. This considers systems and equipment used in the business to handle batches of oysters. The best practice questions scored highly for businesses which had an optical grader, water grader or conveyor for grading. The benefits of good mechanisation is efficient use of labour and focus on efficient operations through the use of equipment. The business which scored nearly 100% for these sections in the snapshot now was a finished oyster producer. The focus on mechanisation can be seen here with the lower labour input per developed hectare. They operated with 0.2 labour input per developed hectare, lower than the group average of 0.4. Interestingly, they achieved below average amount of oysters sold per developed hectare. Of course, this could be explained by a few factors, including seasonal conditions, periods of closure, size of oysters at sale, and the market they are sold into. The benchmarks told us that operating costs and finance costs of this business were lower than the group average. This business also paid less for repairs and maintenance as a percentage of income than the group, and this business did achieve a well above average profit result compared to the group. Again, the aim here is that the Oysters Australia grower groups that are currently being trialled will become a forum to discuss these types of results and explore exactly what systems and equipment this business has in place to achieve these results. So that's it for my summary for today. Just wanted to remind you that this is an ongoing project that new businesses can join at any time, and we're currently scoping out our data collection to happen for the 12-13 financial year. So if you'd like to learn more about what's involved, please jump online to the Oysters Australia blog page and check out our case studies where we have actual growers telling you about what's involved in the program, and there might even be some growers in the room this morning that would be willing to talk to you about what's involved in the program and what they've got out of it. If you'd like to touch base with me, please contact me on the phone number on this slide or send me an email. And also just remember that you can visit oystersaustraliablog.org.au and download the report for yourselves to review. Thank you.